Another injury to Tyler Stephenson has us asking the question, are his days as a member of the Cincinnati Reds numbered? We're going to talk about it on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr. His name is Steve Offenbaker, and we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans. We've been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons, and we're glad that you're alongside us here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's show, Sal Stewart played second base yesterday, and it just continues to reinforce the fact that he's going to be up here in September. We're going to talk about the role that he will embody when he is called up later on in the show. In a few minutes, we're going to discuss yet another one of those games that got away from the Cincinnati Reds. We're going to tell you why, even though it kind of felt like they were playing with house money, that loss still hurts. That's in a few minutes, but we will begin with Tyler Stephenson because he is back on the injured list, and it's not just this injury, it's the big picture that has me thinking, don't know that he's getting a contract extension this off season. That's all coming up on this episode that is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. For your chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA, visit the number 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. It ends October 31st, 2025. All right, Steve, Tyler Stephenson is back on the injured list. There's a small fracture in the tip of his thumb on his catching hand, and it's not this specific injury that makes me think this. It is the big picture. It is everything involved with where we are in Tyler Stephenson's career. As much as we have said that he's probably the most irreplaceable Red, I think that's changed, and I don't think he's getting a contract extension this offseason.
Well, there's a lot of things going on here. I mean, let's just talk about what was going on with Tyler this week. He was taking batting practice. According to reports from that batting practice, he was bombing it. He was going off. He was hitting the ball with authority. But then he went to catch a side from Nick Lodolo, and one pitch, done. Hand hurts, shut it down, off to see the hand specialist. This is a problem. We've talked about Tyler Stephenson needing to be locked up for there to be time for the finding of his replacement, for either Duno to get up here or for them to find somebody in the system or be able to have more catching depth. That may be changing because you look at this, you look at the limited availability of Tyler Stephenson this year. You look at, is he going to be able to come back and catch with the hand being the way it is? Catching 100-mile-an-hour pitches, even with a catcher's mitt, still hurts if your hand's not broken. So you have to wonder, does Tyler Stephenson come back purely in a DH role? Do they use him just to hit? What do they do with him? Whatever it is, it's not going to prompt them to give him a big money offer in the offseason, which is what it's going to take. Because, again, as a reminder to the everydayers, and if you're just joining us, I'll let you in on it too, the Reds tried already. They already talked to him about a contract, and they were so far apart that Tyler was basically like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. And there were no more conversations. So it's in a really problematic spot because that leaves us with the option of trading Tyler Stephenson, Jeff. And that's not exactly going to do wonders for his value if he's DH only the rest of the way, if he can't catch, if he doesn't come back at all from this injury. It's a problem.
That's the hard part about this for me, is that I don't see the contract extension. But the other side of this is, if you are trading him, he is at the lowest point in his value, even if he returns in some DH capacity and he's got to hit the world on fire, basically, whenever he returns. And mind you, he is meeting with a specialist this weekend. 5 days ago, the Reds did not deem this injury necessary enough to even give him an x-ray. And now he's meeting with a specialist. And that doesn't make me think, boy, he's coming back fast. So when he does come back, he's going to be a DH. And I really hope he gets going quick, because that's also not something he has done when coming back from injury. He's always been one of those slow starters. Well, you got to give him time to get back into his swing and get back into the groove of being a catcher and all this other stuff. You won't have time. You just won't have time for him to come back slowly. He's going to have to really come back like gangbusters. And I think with all of that, on top of the fact that, like you mentioned, he deemed the Reds' initial offer so insulting, let's call it what it was, that he didn't even feel the need to counter it. So he clearly values himself at a level that the Reds just aren't even anywhere near, which also makes me wonder, Steve, because I know that we like him as a person. He's been on this show a couple of times. He's been very gracious to us with his time, and he's been fine on the field. But I think that we might overvalue him in terms of his career production. Let me throw this at you, Steve. His career OPS plus is 103. That's fine. He's above average. 3% above average, but he's above average. This year, it's at 90, 10% below league average. So he's picking the worst possible time to have a very mid to below mid season when he's coming into an offseason where it's clear if they're employing some sort of version of the Rays front office strategy, they either need to sign him or they need to trade him. And it just doesn't look good for either scenario this offseason.
Yeah, even as slumpy as Jose Trevino was over the last 4 weeks, Tyler Stevenson's only 5% better, according to OPS Plus. Jose Trevino right now,
and he's supposed to be a lot better at the plate than Jose.
Right. And Jose Trevino's locked up for multiple years now. So I think my thought process on this has changed a lot. I was all in on sign Tyler Stephenson. Mm-hmm. I think now I just hope that the Reds can hang on to him long enough to rebuild some value and then trade him. Now the Reds have one more year of team control on Tyler Stephenson. So there isn't a absolutely they have to trade him at the winter meetings or have to trade him in the offseason. But by the next trade deadline, if you're not going to sign Tyler Stephenson, you need to get something for him. So the hope is then he's has played his way and elevated his value back up. But either way, you can't let him get away for nothing. Somebody will give you something for Tyler Stephenson. So I think, we talked about, are his days numbered? I'm ready to answer that question with yes. And I think he has an expiration date of the trade deadline 2026.
I have a lot more to say about that. We're going to do that in a different segment later on this season, maybe into the offseason, something like that, about the idea of trading him, because I wonder if it's this offseason or bust when it comes to that. But I want to ask you a different question, because I saw this comparison on the Reds Twitter sphere, and I even saw it on Reddit a little bit as well. And I'll ask you this: Tyler Stevenson or Devin Mesarco? And clearly the careers are different. Tyler Stevenson has had a better career when you look at WAR, and he's had a better career when you look at games played, even though he's played 2 less total seasons than, or like 2 less years than Devin Mesarco. He's played more total games. But Tyler Stevenson, in every season that he has played, has been pretty good, right? He's around a 2 WAR player, which is nothing to shake a stick at. That's a solid MLB starter by the list, right? The WAR list that we have. Devin Mesarco in 2014 was a hair shy of 5 WAR. He was an all-star and he received MVP votes. So the age-old question in any sport, and we'll do this with these 2 catchers right here, would you rather have that year of Devin Mesarco, or would you rather have the career of Tyler Stephenson?
As tempting as that big season from Dev is, I stick with Tyler Stevenson. I want to tell you why. Mm-hmm. Every other season, if you look at that list, the WAR list, all the rest of them are negative. There's lots of negative WAR in there for Devin Mesarco. Now, that big year was a big year, and it got him paid, and then the injuries happened, and we all know the Devin Mesarco story. But you look at Tyler Stephenson, he's been in double digits home runs 3 of his 6 big league years, and that counts the 2020 ridiculous year. If you count full seasons of opportunity, he's been double digits home runs 3 out of 5. For his OPS plus, he's been above league average of 4 of those seasons. So I think career wise, multi-year, yeah, I'll take Tyler Stephenson. Now, if I got to pick 1 year, give me that Devin Mesarco season. But I think career-wise, it's Tyler.
It's just crazy because it's like if you put a 5-WAR season together for Tyler Stevenson, I think this team might win the division. That's how good that would be. It's just he's been very fine. He's been good. And I think that overall his legacy and overall where he is in his career and what the Reds are looking at long-term, I just don't see him getting that long-term contract this offseason.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we're going to talk about this a lot more, Jeff. This is going to be a hot offseason topic, pretty much the entire offseason. So don't worry, folks. We will circle back around to that. But listen, there was a ball game last night, a ball game that the Cincinnati Reds lost. And for me, it's another one of those games, air quotes, that the Reds should have had and definitely needed. We're going to talk about last night's loss coming up next. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. You just don't know what you've got floating around out there. And when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings you your entire financial life together right in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data, put it in visual form with charts and graphs, and get smart categorization of your spending and finally feel in control of your money without ever having to touch the dreaded spreadsheet. I use this to help keep track of my money and my spending. It's very easy for things to get out of hand when all you got to do is tap that card. Monarch Money helps you know exactly what you're spending and where you're spending it at. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure you are subscribed. Click that subscribe button. Click that notification bell. That way you don't miss any of the great Reds content we have coming your way. That includes us on the Reds, Locked On Reds podcast, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. You get Tim Daniel after each and every Reds game. No matter what time they start, he goes live right after with the Reds postcast. So make sure you're subscribed so you get all of that great content and you don't miss any of it. All right, Jeff, this for me, while not as frustrating as some of the others have been, I have this list in my head of those games that the Reds should have won, those games that the team the Reds were playing did everything they could do to let the Reds win it, and they didn't. This was one of those games for me, because you look at that loss last night, the Angels were pretty much inviting the Reds to take the sweep. Go ahead, have it. Come on, do it. Hit a couple of these baseballs. It just never really came into play. And I think this is going to be one of those games when we get into crunch time September, when we're nearing the end, and if things are still tight, there is this list of games they should have had, games that would have made a difference, games that would have secured a postseason bid much, much sooner. I've got games like this. I've got both of those losses, first two losses to the Milwaukee Brewers recently. Opening day, Ian Jabot. Things like that. Things that the Reds clearly shoulda, coulda won the game. An 8-run lead on the Brewers that they couldn't hang on to. Stuff like that. So you look at this Angels game. This is in that grouping for me, Jeff. It's I want to be mad, but sweeps are hard. Sweeps are hard. And they did what we asked them to do. We said, go to Anaheim and win 2 out of 3. And they went to Anaheim and won 2 out of 3. So why am I so mad?
Because it's the game was there. I mean, in the second inning, they had runners on first and third with nobody out. Nobody scored. In the sixth inning, they had runners on first and second and nobody out. And nobody scored. Like there were 2 big times that it felt as though the Reds should have gone. And that sixth inning, by the way, was the one where TJ Friedl had laced a single and Noelvi Marte was up and he hit a can of corn skyrocket home run in a silo to right center field. And Joe Adele and Teodosio, the right fielder and the center fielder, respectively, for the Los Angeles Angels, looked at each other up and down, really gauged each other's, fashion sense. And I don't know, they conversed about the weather or something, and they didn't catch the ball. and it hits the turf. And you got runners on first and second and nobody out. And the Angels are just, they have no clue. The Angels were not in the outfield, Steve, but for some reason, the Reds can't capitalize. I mean, this was not, there's definitely some games this year, and I'm sure that there's people at home that are saying, man, there's like a dozen games I can think of. Let's pare that list down, because there's probably some games that the other team did just do the thing. The Angels were not doing any of the things in this game up until the ninth, or up until the bottom of the eighth inning, when you had Graham Ashcraft in and he could not throw his slider for a strike. He was missing high. And you know what happens when you miss high? You give up a double to the fastest guy on the team that didn't have a hit all series, in Teodosio. He gets to third on a wild pitch and he scores on a little bloop single. Because when you don't take advantage of the opportunities that are handed to you early by a bad team, you do not get lucky late with Graham Ashcraft in there with a guy on third. Like, for a minute, I thought, Steve, I'm like, he's going to make a few pitches and get out of this. And then it's like, nah, what was I thinking?
Let me ask you this, because, I'm here to ask the hard-hitting questions, the ones that catch you off guard, and I love it. I was perusing Reds Facebook the last couple days. And
don't do that ever. It's a bad idea.
There are some mad people.
No.
There are some mad people on Reds Facebook that the Reds did not lay down a bunt with runners on second and third. Where are you at on that? Because I'm like,
lay down a bunt with runners on second and third?
Yep. Yes. Squeeze. They wanted the squeeze.
Oh.
Reds Facebook wanted the squeeze.
No. I don't even know. The only guy on third base who could have pulled that off was Ellie De La Cruz. And even then, I don't want you doing that. I want you hitting a fly ball or hitting a ground ball at least into the infield shift where, they're in, but you hit the ground ball and you run the contact play, all that other stuff. There's absolutely no shot. And I thought it was hilarious too, because if you remember, on Tuesday night, with the bases loaded in the top of the ninth inning, there was a moment where John Sadak was like, hey, Cowboy, do you bunt here? And he's like, I'm going to fall out of this booth if they bunt. And I'm pretty sure he would have fell out of the booth if the Reds would have bunted with runners on second and third.
Let me say this. For the folks that grew up, say, watching games here, for the audio folks, I have my Riverfront Stadium seating chart shirt on that I picked up from Cincy Shirts. And when you watched games here, there was more bunting in baseball. Listen, guys, the pitchers weren't as good. And I know that's a hard thing to understand and accept. The pitchers were not as good back in the day. I don't know that I would even be willing to risk my life to try and butt a 96-mile-an-hour sinker or slider or some of this crazy stuff that guys are flipping up there from the mound. It was just easier back then, with a few notable exceptions. So I don't bunt either, Jeff, but I wanted to hit you with some Facebook Reds wisdom here on the show today.
I don't think it's a lack of small ball that killed them in this one. They did end up getting one walk. I saw an interesting stat that the Reds are 1-8 in games when they don't draw a walk. So I kind of thought that one walk was big. They were going to figure it out, but now they're 7-7 in games where they have one walk, and they fall to 18-36 in games when they don't hit a long ball. Now, again, that means that they hit a home run and I forgot, I should have wrote it down. I think it was like 74 games that they've hit a home run in this season. But when you don't hit the long ball, the Reds are at a severe disadvantage. And that's really the difference in this one. There was a hanging breaking ball that Nick Martinez threw to Yoan Moncada, and Yoan Moncada hit it over the center field wall. And that's what tied the game at 1, and that's why the score stayed 1-1 for the entirety of the game up until the bottom of the 8th inning. And then just a couple of key hits brings in the go-ahead run, and that's all that they need. There was so much about this game that was lost well before Graham Ashcraft came into this ball game, but he took the ire of Reds fans because he gave up the go-ahead run. It's just they should have had 2, 3, 4, who knows how many, had they capitalized on the situations earlier on in the ball game like they were able to the night before.
Here's my big takeaway from all of this, Jeff. again, it goes on my those games list. The
Yes.
problem is that the Reds are running out of time to be able to recover from adding those games to the list. Time is getting short. I know it's still August. There's a whole month of baseball to play, but they need to get out in front and they need to be able to build some distance. This cannot come down to the final weekend of the series in Milwaukee. It cannot come down to that. So the Reds need to do some work. They need to win these winnable games. They need to win the games that the opposition is giving them. They need to do better the rest of the way.
And could they get a little help here whenever the month or the calendar turns to September? Because Sal Stewart played yet another position, and I'm pretty sure that we are both in the category or thinking in the category of when and how and not if Sal Stewart gets the call. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or you just need a little extra push to power through your day, like when the Reds are on the West Coast and playing some late-night baseball, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. The grape ginger lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down that bevy cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the USA. Tee up that trip at the number 5 HEWin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcast app. We're on every single one of them out there. Go check us out today. And yes, Steve, I like going back to your point there in that segment as well, like just the number of games that are just adding up that are so frustrating with this ball club. They got a shot to bounce back again now. They're going to Arizona. We will be breaking down that series and what the Reds need to do to get to 2 out of 3. And maybe the 3 out of 3 on tomorrow's podcast. Make sure you join us. But let's look at Sal Stewart right now, because Sal Stewart played second base on Wednesday, Steve. He played first base on Tuesday, Steve, and he's been playing third base pretty much ever since he got called up to AAA. The man's trying to play all the spots in the infield, and I think there's only one reason for that. The Reds are trying to figure out exactly how many different spots they can put him at when they call him up in September.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going on. And I like that they're doing it now. I like that.
Yes.
I like that they're at least exposing him to these things while he's still in Louisville
left, yeah.
before they bring him up to Cincinnati. Look, he has had a really, really, really good year. If you take his Chattanooga numbers, he had a slash line of 306, 377, 473. The Louisville slash line is better, smaller sample size, but better. 324, 397, 627. Yeah, you heard me. 627. That combines for a minor league slash line of 311, 382, 513. Give me some of that. But here's the thing. Don't do that thing we always do. Don't do that thing that Cincinnati is notorious for doing with the young guys that are being called up. Don't set the expectation so high that the only thing that Sal Stewart can do for you is disappoint you. He's going to come up. He's going to play. He's going to have struggles. And it looks like they're going to ask him to be a super utility while he's doing it. That is not a recipe for abounding success. That is a recipe for some problems along the way, some growing pains, some errors. Let's be realistic in what we can expect from Sal Stewart. Now, he could come up and continue to shock the world, and that would be the best possible outcome. That would be beautiful. I would love it. At the very minimum, he's going to come up and he's going to give Spencer Steer a day off, and he's going to give Matt McLain some days off. He's going to give Brian Hayes some days off. He's going to play those 3 positions. He's going to allow for Tito to move guys around and get dudes into the DH slot and do some things to keep people rested and ready as we get closer and closer and closer to October. That's his sole purpose. If he can come up here and hit between 250 and 300, have a couple jacks and play some good defense, big win, big win. but don't expect him to come up here and have a 600 slugging percentage. It's not going to happen.
No, because the numbers in AAA are not the same as the numbers in Major League Baseball, because the pitchers in AAA are nowhere near as good as the pitchers in Major League Baseball. But I find this intriguing, Steve, because what they are planning on doing, at least by how they're handling him this past week in Louisville, is similar to what they did with Spencer Steer back in 2022. You remember they called him up. He only played about 28 games that year. That was the year that he was acquired from the Minnesota Twins in that Tyler Mahle trade. And they had him play everywhere. They had him just get at bats, just see pitches and see what he can do. Now, it's a different atmosphere. The Reds weren't playing for anything, obviously. That was a bad season. And so they were able to let him go and just kind of let him be himself. That year in 28 ball games, Spencer Steer had a slash line of 211, 306, 326. I think we're expecting a lot more. My question to you is, if Sal Stewart comes up and gives us 211, 306, 326, is that a disappointment?
Nah, it's as expected. That's exactly what should happen. He's got to come up here and figure out the majors. The point of these September call-ups, these cups of coffee, as it were, what is to expose guys to what the major league level is. Let them get a taste of the big league pitching. Let them get a taste of big league travel and big league situations and operations and the day-to-day business of being a major leaguer. Then they come back, they have their spring training, and that's somebody that's now been exposed that you can look towards being a part of your everyday roster. You can't look at it's like, oh, yay, Sal Stewart's coming. Finally, the Reds are going to win some ball games. It's not going to be like that. It's not.
Also, if he is on the roster on September 1st instead of August, is there 31 days in August?
Yes.
31. Yeah. So instead of August 31st, he is not eligible for the postseason. So he will play in the month of September and he will not play in any other month the rest of the way. If the Reds make the playoffs, he will not be part of that roster. So that's the other part of this. So I think that there's an element of the Reds that they want to see him succeed, but this is also a bit of a challenge, a bit of a dare I say, to Matt McLain, because you're calling up the guy who could replace you, or the Reds are calling up the guy who could replace you. And so for you to sit there on the bench and watch this guy go, if he comes up and he goes, then that's got to be some sort of motivating for a guy like Matt McLain. Matt McLain is a guy that in 2023 and even a little bit during his injured season in 2024 was a clubhouse leader. I haven't seen that this year because I haven't seen Matt McLain this year. I've seen a lot of him struggling and he's coming back from the injury and all this other stuff. And I continue to maintain the position that I don't think he needs to be sent down. But do we have enough time to play him every day? Do we have enough leeway to play him every day? So that's going to be the tough part for me, because you're going to bring him up. You also have other guys that you can play in second base, and Gavin Lux. If you squint really hard, Santiago Espinal. If you squint even harder, Spencer Steer, but then somebody else has to play first base. So there's definitely options that the Reds have, but that's going to be the thing for me, is that I almost think this is a bit of a indirect move on the roster for the Reds to help make Matt McLain better, or at least push him to be better.
Two things. First thing, if Sal Stewart comes up and performs like Spencer Steer did during his cup of coffee, which was acceptable and fine, and I was not concerned about it at all, just know that that performance is giving you less than what Matt McLain is giving you right now, based on the numbers. Part two of that is this. Sal Stewart is not being deprived of playing time with a September call-up. The AAA season is ending. These are just extra. So if he only gets 5 at-bats in September, well, that's 5 big league bats that he would not have gotten. That's 5 at-bats he would not have gotten at all. That's 5 days of playing time that are extra that he would not have gotten. So I don't care if he sits the bench and only plays every little bit. I don't think that's what they're going to do. But what I'm saying is, you don't call that guy up in July and have him the last man on your bench and rob him of playing time. In September, it's different. He can be available. He can be extra. He can give you a little something. And I'm fine with that. But I think the Reds are going to scoot him around. I think your Spencer Steer example, is perfect because I just went and looked at Spencer Steer's 2022. The same 4 positions we're talking about with Sal Stewart are the same 4 positions that Spencer Steer played during his call-up. Third base, second base, first base, DH. Same things for Sal Stewart. I'm fine with it. However much he gets to play, I'm not going to worry if he's getting too much or not enough. I'm just going to take it as it is. And again, don't count on Sal Stewart to save the world.
And on that bombshell, it's time to end today's podcast. Thanks everybody so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. If you are not an everydayer, make sure you become one by hitting that subscribe button right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we're going to be with you every single day the rest of the way as the Reds fight for a wild card spot. Hopefully the Mets keep Metsing, and the Reds are going to make that happen here sooner rather than later. Mets going to be playing on Thursday. Reds are off today, so a chance to gain a half game if the Nationals can do what they did on Wednesday. You can bet we're going to be watching that, though, because when it comes to the Reds baseball and when it comes to Cincinnati, we are Locked On Reds every single day.
Guess I'm not on the Stewart family Christmas list now.
Might be off the Stevenson one, too.
Jeez. He's going to hit 40 homers.
No, that's still not going to happen. We can't even reverse jinx that one.
Yeah. I tried.